So we're here with Chosen People Ministries, and I've got Rubén Gómez with me, who doesn't live in England. You live in Spain, is that right?
I do.
He lives in Spain. It says here that you earned your MA in theology with distinction from the University of Chester and a diploma in theology from Elam Bible College. He serves as an approved tutor for the University of Chester at King's Evangelical Divinity School, where he directs the Jewish Christian Studies program. He lives in Spain, has translated multiple Christian books into Spanish for different publishers. Thank you so much for being with us today, Rubén.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we've been talking a lot today all about this whole rise of anti-Semitism, what's the church's response, but you talk specifically about young people. What's the role that they have to play?
Well, young people ages 18 to 29 are usually called the emerging adults. It's a key age when they go to college, when they have to make most decisions in life, to marry, what will I do for work, and so on. So those people have been studied as part of the survey that we've known today. And there are some troubling trends that we find in that particular age group. Of course, there are some good news. It does seem that young people attend church more, read the Bible more. I mean, there seems to be some sort of spiritual renewal in many young Christians. But on the other side, the bad news is that we find that anti-Semitism for them is not that bad of a thing. They tend to support Palestinians more than Israel in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So right now we are at a point, which is worrying, I think, where almost the ratio of 2 to 1, I mean, 2 young Christians would support Palestinians and only 1 would support Israel. So that's a worrying situation, because you would expect them to know better if they read the scripture and if they hear sermons. Mind you, perhaps not very many talk about Israel nowadays, but the subject of Israel and the Jewish people has been taken out from scripture and has become a moral issue, a political issue. And in that sense, because of higher education, where they go to college, to university, and so on, because of peer pressure and because of social media, that has a great impact on that particular generation, and that makes them to align more closely with what they understand to be the underdog in the situation, in the conflict, and therefore, because of morality, because of human rights, social justice, and international law, they tend to side with Palestinians. But they forget everything else, the moral values that we derive from Scripture itself.
Wow.
So that's an alarming trend.
Yeah, and I think if we're honest, a lot of us see that happening. It's almost like trendy to be, a little bit anti-Semitic. And you've got 3 really great calls to action. And you've also got a great understanding of this acronym, WEIRD, W-E-I-R-D. Can you tell us what those are?
Yeah, well, let's start with the calls to action, if you don't mind. What can we do when we see the trend that is certainly worrying? I mean, young Christians who not only do not support Israel, but who vehemently believe that those who do are being immoral, you see? So, call to action number 1 would be fighting against the idea of replacement theology, also called supersessionism, in our churches. We have to fight against that idea, which is not a biblical idea at all. Call to action number 2 would be to get young people that age, and older, of course, to travel to Israel and know on the ground what it means to be there.
Good.
because the only thing they hear is a one-sided narrative that paints Israel as the oppressor and everybody else as the oppressed. But when you actually go there, you find that things are not black and white and very much different. And call to action number 3 would be to organize in our churches congregational study groups, so that specifically not only can they read the Bible, pray together, and act on certain issues, but also that they can learn about position papers that are available on Christian Zionism, on the conflict between Israel and Palestine, on various other things like supersessionism, which I've mentioned before. And I think we need to take a proactive attitude in our churches and start to dig deeper into some of these issues, which are very complex. We all understand that. And which have, as I said before, been de-biblicized, taken out of the Bible, and politicized. And that's where we find, I believe, the main problem. And as far as the weird countries, or we call it the weird morality, which is the kind of morality that shapes young people's own personal morality. I mean, I'm talking about Christians. They go to church more than ever, perhaps, but we don't see that translates into moral changes in their lives. And since the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is seen as a moral/political issue, they tend to have or use the lens of the prevalent morality in our society, rather than that morality which would be derived from revelation, from Scripture, from the upbringing in Christian families, and or even from traditional media. But now we find that those sources of morality have changed, so that now higher education, college, university, and so on and so forth, peer pressure, and social media are the main sources of their morality. And their morality is the weird morality, which is not an insult.
Let me see if I get it right.
Okay.
It's a little bit of an insult, but in a good way.
Okay.
Western, educated,
yes,
industrialized, rich, democratic nations.
That's right.
Communities.
And we tend to think, as Westerners ourselves, that everybody has the same kind of morality. But that's not the case. There are many, many countries in the global South that have a more traditional society that tends to prioritize what's called the binding moral foundations, like loyalty to the group, like respect for authority and traditions and sanctity. There are certain things in life which are holy, but that's lacking in the weird societies, which only think in terms of care for the hurting, which are good things, of course, care for the hurting, justice for all, and liberty, freedom from oppression. Now, if you only take that as your lens, as your moral lens, you're bound to side with what you perceive to be the underdogs, the Palestinians, and say, well, Israel is bad, Israel is the oppressor, and they are the victims. But when you take into account those moral foundations, plus the other ones that I've mentioned before from perhaps other traditional societies, or more conservative people in our societies, I mean like Christians, then you have loyalty, then you have respect, and then you have sanctity. And when you take all those 6 into account, your perspective changes. And you see that Israel is facing an existential threat. So they are also the victims. I mean, they are not, the bad guys. And you begin to see that they have a history, they have a calling, and we have to respect that. And they have a legitimacy, which our society would not recognize. And that's really what makes the difference.
It's brilliant. Rubén, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.